going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Smoking Business Podcast with your boy Brendan Robinson. I got a special guest here today. All right, needs no introduction, but I'm going to introduce her anyway. I consider this woman a personal friend in this industry. She's someone I've watched go through many phases of this industry and has been the same person through it all, which is hard to say in cannabis. I'm here with the one and only Dharsh Casinathen. How you doing?
I'm so good.
So when I'm introducing you, Darsh, I want to say, president of Joy Lee, all that stuff. But you do so much now. Like, how should I introduce you? Like tell people who you are.
I'm an educator and entrepreneur in the cannabis space.
Okay.
I am I'm an educator and I've been certified as a ganjier. And so believe it or not, that's a sommelier of the plant.
Okay.
Right? So when we can look at a plant and smell a plant and taste a plant and experience of the plant, we can have those in-depth conversations and really talk about quality.
For sure.
I am the president of Joy Leaf, and we've been open now officially over 1 year.
Oh wow! Congratulations.
Thank you. And what if I were to sum up who I am, I love abundantly. I am all about values of family, loyalty, respect, and I'm here to create inherent value.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, you said a lot there, right? We got a woman that's an entrepreneur that can roll a joint. Okay, as a concierge.
Yeah.
But I want to go back to the very beginning. I want to go back to where this all starts, where you're from, and then we'll get into how you got into cannabis and all that stuff in a little bit. But just take me back to your childhood. Like, what was it like growing up?
Yeah, so I was actually born in Sri Lanka.
Okay.
And then in the early 80s, when I was about 2 years old, my parents had to flee Sri Lanka because there was a civil war.
Oh, wow.
So think about, you're in your mid-30s, and think about having two small children, and you pack up all your things with $2,500, and you get on a plane, and you're never going to come back, and you go to a country that you don't even know what to expect.
Oh my
You
God.
come from a warm country, and you're actually flying to a cold country in the middle of winter with two small children. And so my parents are probably the most courageous people who I know. And we moved to Toronto, Canada. And so that's where I have a Canadian passport, so
Okay.
I'm Canadian. And I grew up there. And so when you grow up in a South Asian home, you get taught like a really simple equation: hard work, good education equals opportunity. So when we moved to Canada and we had to start all over, we lived in low-income housing. And we lived there for about 12 years before my parents made enough money to buy the house that they currently live in right now.
Okay.
And that's the house I really grew up in. And that I was in at 12 years old. But when I was younger, because we lived in low-income housing and we lived over a laundromat, the air circulation was really bad. And I was actually severely asthmatic. And so from the age of 4 to the age of 15, I was hospitalized every like 6 months as a child and constantly put on antibiotics, prednisone. So I really, now what I've learned in my education, especially about gut health, I realized I was like, oh, there's a lot of Western medicine that actually impacted my health as I grew up. And finally, when we moved out of the house, I still was hospitalized, but my asthma, as I grew older, started to lapse. And because I wasn't going into the hospital as often, and so therefore I wasn't on antibiotics all the time. And so as a young woman, think about it, you're growing up and you're on these antibiotics. And probably from the age of 15 to 20 before I go to college, I become better and healthy, start eating better, start like doing some form of exercise. And I'm studying at high school. You're supposed to get good grades, you do your part, go to school, do your part, get a good education. I decided to also pursue to become, go into business.
Okay.
So it was either doctor, lawyer, accountant.
Yeah. Plain and simple.
Really that simple for
Okay.
girls in a South Asian home at that time. And so I picked accountant.
Okay.
And so I go to college, I get an accounting business degree, major in accounting. And then I get recruited by KPMG, one of the top 4 accounting firms. So I worked there for 4 years.
Okay.
And then I got the opportunity. I didn't want to be a partner at a firm. That wasn't really, appetizing to me.
Sure.
And then I got an opportunity to go work for PepsiCo.
Okay.
So I went in and worked in finance, so in the finance department. And what was really cool about PepsiCo, so I was at PepsiCo for 13 years. And so at PepsiCo, 7 years was in Toronto.
Okay.
And then that's how I got to the US, because PepsiCo brought me to the US. And they
Oh,
actually
wow.
hooked me up with a green card.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because
Shout
I
out to
really,
PepsiCo.
no, they're
Yeah.
great. I think large institutions, I think that's where I got my training ground.
Yeah.
And so what I really learned is at PepsiCo was really about people and processes. And PepsiCo is such a great institution where it really cared about its people processes and really was about developing you. So even though I was there for 13 years, what was really unique was like every 15 to 18 months, I was getting a new role. And I would go work with different cross-functional teams. So at PepsiCo, it's like you make the product and then you sell the product, right, to the stores. And so I got an opportunity to work with people who would make the product. So I would go operate plants. And then I would also work with the selling organization who goes sell those products into retail stores. And then, so it was a great way to understand how people and then processes really were built. And it was an engine,
For sure.
right? And I learned core of my skills that I use today was really from that institution.
Absolutely.
And I think I take a lot of their people I think by far PepsiCo has one of the best people processes. And with that, we've taken a lot of that insight from there, and I brought that especially to Joy Leaf for sure.
Absolutely. I mean, it sounds like they do a really good job of career pathing for you guys and giving you training and tutelage to really build you up. I mean, that's a wild story, Darsh. I mean, to go just abruptly get taken from your country, come over here as a kid, go through what you went through health wise with your asthma, the living conditions above the laundromat. I mean, and then to come out of that and go work for a company like PepsiCo and thrive. Like, we're like, not to harp on your childhood, but like you had to, your parents had to really be drilling some stuff into you growing up.
Oh, totally. Like it was like, because when you now in hindsight, they were like, your job is to study. And it was that equation. You want to have a great life, work hard, and get a good education, right? And so part of because my parents were just trying to make like ends meet. Like think about it, you're in your mid 30s and you got to start all over in your life. And the crazy part was like where my parents were in the generational wealth of like where things were happening. My parents were supposed to be that generational wealth. And then that got taken away. And then now we come here to start all over again. So it's where their great grandfather started from. Right. And so, and when you know that story, you're just like, I always had in my heart, like, we came to this country for opportunity. And so any second or whatever I do has to be about how can we make sure there's opportunity, right? I looked to my parents, like I saw my mom work really hard, right? I saw my dad work really hard. And I was like, okay, that's what you do. And that's how it works, right? There's no excuses.
For sure.
Like you get taught, like whenever we get in trouble for something, we'd be like, why? And then all of a sudden there's a story that comes. My dad would be like, there's no excuses.
Yeah. And, you know, those two words are so impactful. And, you know, I didn't realize this until now we're chatting about it, but we have a lot of parallels. Obviously different circumstances. But, you know, even in No Excuses, I was a 12-year-old boy playing for an AAU basketball team. And a year later, my father had got locked up for cannabis, sent away to prison for 10 years. So I was raised by these coaches and these men, right? And I had a coach, Keith Smith, shout out to Coach Keith, and he had a mantra: hard work, no excuses.
Yep.
And I don't give a shit what happened. I mean, you know, you're 12, 13, you're emotional, you're like, you're going through puberty, all kind of. He didn't got, and it drilled in me at 13, 14 years old that nobody's gonna ever feel sorry for you. No one's gonna come save you.
Nope.
You got to get it out the mud. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, just kudos to you, kudos to your parents, for just having the mental wherewithal to persevere. And I talked to you today, and you're so uplifting, and like you would never know. You would never know that you even went through that. So, you know, you get to PepsiCo, you're there for 13 years, you end up being a senior director of e-commerce, I believe.
Yeah.
You're killing it. How do you end up in weed?
Yeah. What was really interesting was, so I smoked weed once in my 20s. And I was at a club, someone had weed and they passed it to me. And then I smoked it and I was the most paranoid I ever was. And it was a horrible experience. and I would never touch the plant again. And in my 20s, I actually got diagnosed with an autoimmune disease in my gut. And so with that, I'm on more medicine. So move from asthma to different medicine.
For sure.
And I'm using that to suppress the conditions that would the condition that would show up, right? And I go to PepsiCo, I'm doing the things. Remember, I'm pushing soda and chips also, remember. I'm pushing soda and chips, right? And and then in 2018, and I actually leave my marriage. I decided to leave my marriage.
Okay, this is
so.
While you still at PepsiCo.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I get married. I end up getting married in 2014. I end up leaving my marriage in 2018.
Okay.
And so with that, leaving my marriage was a very courageous thing for me to do. And so when I did leave, the plant found me. And when the plant found me, I decided to change other facets about myself, about what I ate, who I spent time with, what was I reading. And I really started getting to know myself. And the plant helped me find that as well. What I didn't know was, at the same time, I stopped my medication. What I didn't know at that time was how the plant was actually helping reduce inflammation in my body.
Okay.
But I wasn't sure what I was smoking, and I didn't know what I know now and how I do things.
Yeah.
I didn't know then, right? And so being intentional with the plant, I wasn't doing it then, but it was actually, with all the other things I was doing, it was actually working in unison.
For sure.
The food, the diet, like all the things. And in 2020 or 2019, I go see my doctor and to do my physical and stuff, and we're about to do another prescription. She's like, "Do you want me to sign you up for your medicine?" I was like, "No, I've stopped using it." And she's like, "What do you mean?" And then I started telling her what I was starting to do, and she's like, "You don't have any symptoms?" And I was just like, "No, I feel fine. I kind of want to not use it." And she's like, "Are you doing anything else? Like, what are you doing medicinally?" And I was like, "Well, if you count weed." And then she looked at me and she was just like, "Look, I can't treat you," because I thought I was going to get full judgment.
Yeah.
And then she was surprisingly, she actually introduced me to the word of the endocannabinoid system.
Okay.
And so she's like, "Look, I can't treat you, but I've read these things and you should just go do some research." And so what parallel happens is I get a call to interview with the CEO of an MSO.
Okay.
Who ends up being Jason Ackerman.
Okay. Shout out to Jason.
Yeah, he's my business partner. And so I'm now learning about weed, about how it reduces inflammation in your body. And then I meet Jason. And this is like a recruiter finds me on LinkedIn. So
Wow.
I didn't go look for it.
Yeah.
And I meet with Jason, and within the first 15 minutes of our call, I knew who Jason was because he was the former CEO of Fresh Direct and the founder of Fresh Direct.
For sure.
And so I knew that because Fresh Direct was a customer of PepsiCo and I was in e-commerce.
Wow.
And I was like, well, I want to meet this gentleman. And it was for a job so I'm an operating CFO. I'm not a publicly investor relations CFO. I didn't have that experience at PepsiCo.
For sure.
But the role I was coming to meet Jason with was for the publicly traded CFO job. And when I meet him, he was like, "Look, it is very clear that you're not qualified for this job."
Oh, man.
And then I started laughing. Like, that's exactly what just happened. We started laughing, and then he goes, "I think you would be better as a president of a company than to be the CFO of this company." And I was like, well, no one said that to me before. I was like, tell me more. So he presented me an opportunity where I became the chief of staff at this large publicly traded MSO with him. And I spent a year with him, and he put me into training mode where he sent me back up to Canada during COVID, and I ran a 60,000 indoor square foot facility.
Wow.
And that was all about change management and changing the organization and the people that were operating it. And within those 4 months, we changed the processes, put the right people in, and we were able to increase sales in that quarter and made strategy changes. And I also in that one too, I made a mistake. I learned the leadership lesson of trying to move too fast to get something done, but your team doesn't have the right mindset or the capabilities. So therefore, if your team's not right and how fast you want to move to get something done, I learned that lesson where we ended up launching a new product, which was great, but however, it had to be recalled back in because we R&D didn't do their part, and we knew we didn't have the best team at that time too.
For sure.
So that's where I learned really the art of people and process and making sure you have the right people doing the right things, and also the speed at what you want to do something at. You have to be really mindful of like, do you have the right people doing the right thing?
You know, it's a word I use, Darsh. You can steal it. All right, it's patiency.
Oh, patience.
And it's exactly what you just described, right? Because as a leader, as an entrepreneur, your mind's racing. You're always thinking about the next play, the next move, right? But to your point, you got folks around you. You got a team around you that alone we can go faster, but together we go further.
Absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely.
and it's critical to just have those skills. And I want to talk about those skills because when you mentioned the training that you got at PepsiCo, as I mentioned the parallels in our story, I worked at Santander Bank for 12 years before getting into cannabis, and I started their Black Employee Network there. I was a trip winner. I was number one guy in the company in my role as a business market director. But they taught me so many things that I use today.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that part doesn't get talked about enough, which is a big reason why we even do the Smoking Business podcast. I want to talk to the folks that are out there working at these corporations because there's not enough of them coming to cannabis. I love the folks that are all about the plant, being a part of the industry, and that's fine. But we need these professionals that have professional skills, i.e., someone at PepsiCo kicking ass, someone at a bank kicking ass, to come here. So, like, just talk about your mindset through that period, right? You're getting divorced, you're going through health concerns, you're at a company where you're thriving, and then boom, you meet this guy Jason, and he's like, "Hey, go run a 60,000 square foot," and you're like, "All right, let's go." Talk about your mindset. Just where were you at mentally?
Yeah. I thought at that time when, you know what's crazy? PepsiCo was giving me another job and I was going to move to Dallas.
Wow.
Like literally had a Dallas job at PepsiCo or picked to go work in cannabis. That was presented.
Decisions.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I call it the abundance of opportunity presented itself.
What'd your parents say? What's the formula?
Right, exactly. Hard work, good education equals opportunity.
Come
And then
on
all
now.
of a sudden there was this abundance of opportunity that just present. And then, you know, it's crazy because I was so worried about which decision to make, and I had to look at that lens to be like, oh my God, you can have whichever life that you would like to have. Which one would you like to choose?
For sure.
And I chose cannabis, and it's interesting why I chose cannabis. My mindset was PepsiCo's safe. Right. And I left money on the table. There's golden handcuffs that they get you. Once you get that senior, they don't want you to leave because people are an investment.
For sure.
And I made the decision because I was like, if not now, when? And if this doesn't work, I have a skill set and a resume that I can go back and get a Fortune 50 job.
For sure.
Right. Our worst case scenario, Brendan, is that we can go get a 6-figure Fortune 50 job.
And you're probably better at it now than you were back then.
Totally. You're getting another job. You're getting the job.
The job. I couldn't agree more.
Right?
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
And that's awesome. That's awesome, Dar. Now, so obviously with you, education has been a part of your life since day one. What I love about your story and just you as an individual is that you still keep that same mantra to this day. Whether it's going to get your Ganjier certification, whether it's educational things that you do at Joy Leaf, and we'll get to Joy Leaf in a second. But talk about just coming to the cannabis industry and being so hell bent on being as smart as you could be, and talk about the Ganjier certification as well.
Yeah, I think, well, I feel that education is so important, especially now as an emerging industry. And I think people want to, with legalization, there's people coming back into the cannabis market, right? There were people that were 25 in the 70s that said now they can't, now they have aches and pains, now they want to come back in.
For sure.
And because I had the personal experience of using the plant in my in my health journey, that I was like, well, how can I take this and triangulate this in a way so I can communicate this to people that it has other advantages? And because I was taught education equals opportunity, and that was in my equation, I was like, education is the forefront of it. I think I was also new. Like, I only found the plant in 2018.
Oh, wow.
And so how could I just show up in an industry and be like, buy weed from me?
Yeah.
Like, that makes no sense. Like it has no credibility. And I think for me, authenticity is really important. And if we have, I feel when I connect with people, there's always a form. I believe we are all connected. And so when we do connect in those forms, it was important for me to make sure that, hey, I had a voice to it and I had something, and I knew there was education that required people to know. And it was actually Jason that encouraged me. He goes, you talk about this in your research. And he goes, is there a certification? And that's when I researched. There were different institutes, great institutions. And then when I found Ganjier, what was really interesting was I was enamored by the community and the 80 council members and their experiences. Because when you go get an education, it's not just the content of what it is, because the content you can go find on the internet and put together the framework. But it was more about also the community.
For sure, the experience. Yeah.
And also go meet folks who were growing weed in the hills in Humboldt. Like the mecca of weed is in California.
For sure.
And so when I saw the program and how it gave a basis of understanding what is the plant, the science of the plant, how the plant is grown, what are the attributes of the plant, it gave a framework with that. That's the way that I understood it. And that was the way that I'm like, okay, how can I take that information and share it with people? And it also gave us a great framework of how we came up with Joy Leaf's like right product for the right moment. Because at the end of the day, we wanted to destigmatize the plant. That's my mission. And with that is what does it look like? And how do you speak about it? And how do you make people feel about it?
For sure.
And so the way Joy Leaf's designed and also how we talk to you in the store is really about bringing a whole new imagery to the plant, because in the late 30s and 40s, the imagery was very negative.
Oh yeah, reefer madness, devil's lettuce,
all of that with no science behind it.
For sure.
And you know what's really interesting with that is they put the propaganda on the actions of the people.
Oh yeah.
And when you really think about what the actions of those people are, but you think about this all really starts with a plant that's been around for millennials of years. And these people have used the plant in different forms, and the imagery that was presented was not in line with what it really is.
You remember the DARE program, right? Where your brains are fried eggs.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
For sure.
And so when people walk, and so with that education, and then how we can frame that and tell people, hey, we're going to help you find the right product for the right moment. You know what you want. There's 4 reasons why people come into our store. It's to help them sleep. They want to relax. They have a medical condition, and they want to have a good time. Those are the 4 reasons why people come into the store.
For sure.
Right? And so when you simplify it that way and people hear that, we just got best new business by the Chamber of Commerce. And they
wow, congratulations.
Thank you. And so they had a gala, and so we went, I had to do an acceptance speech.
Okay.
And so when you tell people these are the 4 reasons why people come into the store, they all start seeing themselves in those moments. And so that was part of the way of really telling people and introducing a whole new imagery and a language to cannabis for people who are part of the reefer madness and are scared, and the DARE program, because we have a lot of people that still are.
Oh yeah.
They grew up on that.
Oh yeah.
And so I always say to people, you don't need to smoke weed. If you are more empowered with the right form of education of the history of the plant and the science of the plant, and you know how people are using it, you become an advocate. And so that was the form of education of like spreading the word. And then that, to me, my vision is like that helps destigmatize the plant.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, because to your point, like you think about reefer madness, devil's lettuce, that whole propaganda, it's because folks weren't educated.
Exactly.
To this day, a lot of them still aren't, which is
Exactly.
why I love the fact that you do take that approach and you do lean forward with getting people the right product at the right time. You know what I'm saying? I want to talk a lot about Joy Leaf too, because you guys do things very, very different. But I can't talk about Joy Leaf without bringing up someone that you've mentioned a few times, Jason Ackerman. I know Jason personally. I've seen you guys out and about. I've, just got a ton of respect for him, but even more so for what you two have done together. Just talk about what he's meant to you, what he's meant to your career, and just fill us in.
Yeah. He means a lot to me. He's like a bro. Like, I'm going to get emotional talking about it.
It's okay. It's all right.
No, he's a mentor. He's one of the smartest people I've ever met in my life. Like, sitting in a room with him, and like when he spews off things, I'm just like, oh my God, thank God I'm in this room. And I met him in 2020, and honestly, Jason changed my life. Jason believed in me before I even knew what I was even capable of doing, and he saw it. And he really gave me great frameworks. He made me believe in myself, and it only takes one person to believe in you.
For sure.
And that's what he did for me. And he is now a great confidant, a mentor, a father figure, and it's funny. I call him my money man. He likes the phrase, and but I think you know what's crazy about me and Jason? We actually share the same birthday.
Really?
He's 16 years my senior, but we share the exact
And what day
same.
is that?
It's May 1st.
May 1st. Okay. So what sign is that?
I'm a Taurus. We are Tauruses.
Two Tauruses.
Yeah, we are two Tauruses.
Okay.
And so, and yeah, as soon as he told me, it's funny. Like we both. I think now it was interesting because when I was at the MSO with him, he was my boss. And then when we started working together, I still didn't have that experience that I have today. He said it to me a couple weeks ago. He's like, you're totally different. Like I'm so proud of you. Like you're totally a whole different woman. I was like, yeah, I am. I totally am.
For sure.
I found and he really helped me find my voice.
That's awesome.
And that's why I love when men mentor. And I think when men believe in women, and you know what's crazy too? Like, he's really been like, you're the face. Like, this is how he's like, you were so passionate about it that you have to share it. He was the one that actually told me, go on Instagram. And he was like, you need to share it. And through each of the ways, he's always been a great supporter of mine.
No, for sure.
Yeah.
That's so awesome to hear. And you know that stuff gets me all excited because I'm the same way in the sense that I believe women, especially in cannabis, have such a runway. And to your point, it's just a matter of supporting them and giving them that motivation because cannabis is just an industry that can beat you down.
Yeah.
I mean, and you got to be mentally strong.
Yeah.
You have to have a level of perseverance. You got to be able to shrug things off.
Yeah.
And no one really talks about it, but the winners that win have a lot of war wounds that aren't exposed because they're still trying to win.
Yeah.
No,
I just want to say something on that. You are totally an amazing supporter of women, and you have been such a supporter of mine, and I'm so grateful for you.
Thank you so much.
And when even like people throw rocks, you have always been there just to support me, and I'm so grateful. Thank you.
Well, and I appreciate you saying that. And honestly, it's because I just truly believe when I watch this industry, I watch who's been successful. I watch who I've known for 3+ years and who's maintained a certain level of integrity while still growing. And that's tough in this industry because, anytime you're right with opportunity, Darsh, anytime it's this once in a lifetime wave running through, you're going to see people as real character because they're going to jump at any opportunity. I've seen you turn down things that may have been good for you in the moment that you knew weren't good for you in the long term. You've seen me do the same thing. So we have a level of respect for one another. And, and I think that goes a long way, especially when you're building an industry. I went to a party about a week ago, and I'm at the party. It's about 500 people there, and I'm like, man, I know probably 200 of these people, but I also don't know the other 300. So that goes to show you, in 2 years, there's a whole new crop of people, pun intended.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's more coming. So I think relationships, meaningful relationships that are built off of respect.
Yes.
Not clout, not what can you do for me, but just a genuine, I respect you, you respect me. Go a long way because the same way, I may sit there and motivate you. When you tell me something, I get motivated too because it means a lot. Speaking of things meaning a lot, I was at that Joy Leaves grand opening, and I heard your opening speech. I got to see your parents there. I'm about to get emotional thinking about it. Like, what was that like?
Yeah, that was like, wow, we're here. And I remember I practiced for that speech. I practiced it over and over again. And it was surreal. Like, we're finally here. It was more about okay, I'm in the game now. Like, I'm in. And now let's go. And because I feel like there's phases. There's to get open, it's project management. Like, you're a project manager. You're not running anything. You're checking off a list, and you're just trying to get the doors open.
For sure.
And then I remember the team was organized, and we were still learning the processes. And and it was going to be, we were doing like sample sales before we were open. And then this was going to be like the real show. It was exciting. It was helping customers. It was crazy that my parents were there. My parents were back for our 1 year. So they've seen everything. So on that day when we opened, we did, I'm proud to say, we did 248 transactions that day.
Your first day?
On my first day, yeah.
That's crazy.
And then on our birthday, we actually 2.5 times that.
Really?
Yeah. I was the #1 selling independent dispensary in the state of New Jersey on December 7th.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
You talk about an independent doing over 500 transactions in a single day, a year in business. That's no coincidence.
Yeah.
You know?
So I always say it's like whenever we hit new days on transactions, I was like, okay, I did it once, now I can repeat it. How do I repeat it? And so, it's just you want more.
But what I love so much about watching you now a year into the game, you did something that I think a lot of folks, or at least me personally, I went to a bunch of grand openings. I mean, I done lost count. And I always was just so interested in watching the owner at the grand opening. I'll tell you why. You mentioned being a project manager to get open. Let's not skip that. That's a real job.
Oh yeah, that's a job.
That many haven't done. Shout out to everyone that's done it. Just getting open is a job.
That's a job.
And I'm always intrigued by, all right, you get that job done, you're feeling good, you're at your kind of celebration. And what I never forget, I was just watching you gave one of the best speeches I ever heard. And I just said, Darsh got better. Darsh went up a level. Darsh is in like dog mood. And I mean that respectfully. The day of her grand opening, where I'm like, she's ready for the second war.
Yep.
And I say that in the sense that people get there and they're like, woo, I did it. You were like, I did it.
I just started.
You know what I'm saying? And now I want to go do it.
Yeah.
And to see the growth you had in a year, that makes sense with that mentality, right? Like, so just talk about the first 12 months. Like, what are some of your biggest aha moments? Like, you mentioned the 4 reasons people come in. That's something you learned during that process, right?
Yeah.
Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. Learning the customer is really important, of who's shopping with us, what really resonates with them, understanding what their needs are. And we created a relationship with the customer. Like, we launched a loyalty program, and we wanted to learn with our customers, and that was really important to us. And then getting the systems and processes right. And so once we got open, of course, everything's theoretical until it comes in action. So what's unique about Joy Leaf is that we actually, your bud tenders are on the floor with you. And so you can go shop the shelves. So we put all the products on the shelves, and then we actually curate with technology in the background product cards that have key attributes of the information, so that can help you make it. You don't need a screen. You can go shop like you normally.
Oh wow!
Can.
You're seeing the product, the packaging.
Yeah, and
that's one thing I don't like, because I'm going to see the packaging before I buy it and things like. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Okay.
And edibles, what we do, I believe we're the only state that does this. But all of our cases, we actually put the products out, because we get placebos from our vendors, and we put them out so people can actually see like what is in the package, especially with edibles. And when you shop the shelves at Joy Leaf, and that is actually a moment of education, because think about it, it's destigmatizing the plant. How do we go shop for anything else? Everything is out on open. Go to the grocery store. Again, Jason comes from grocery background. I come from grocery background. And so it's those product cards are going to give you information, be like, okay, can I choose this? And what we do at Joy Leaf too is we segment moments. So that's uplifting, chill, focus, and then sleep. And we put those on the product cards, because that's perhaps how it's going to lean that way.
So hold on, I gotta pause it for a second, because, and I don't mean pause and keep recording, but she just put us on some game, some marketing game. All right, just connect the dots, guys. She told us there were 4 reasons people go to dispensaries.
Yeah.
And then she just told you 4 categories that she has at her dispensary.
Yeah. They're on the wall in our store.
You know?
Yeah, there's moments. I really believe it's right product, right moment. And where that came from is like, when I sit and talk to people, I'm like, why do you smoke what you smoke? When do you smoke what you smoke, and how do you want to feel? So when they start telling me, I just want a long day and I just want to chill on the couch, and I'm like, do you want to feel it in your head? Do you want to feel it in your body? Do you want tingling in your fingers? Like, what do you want to feel like? And then they'll say, yeah, that sounds great. I'm like, let's go try this, right? Because, I know I'm testing, and I know my team tests all the products, and we're going through, I'm like, here's how we can sell these items to people that this is perhaps how they would lean.
For sure.
Right.
Wow. No, I mean, listen, it's a great concept. It's obviously working. You're not only doing well from a sales perspective, but you're doing well because you're helping people.
Yes.
You're educating a community. You're
Yes.
you're bringing more and more folks in. You're giving a welcoming environment
Yes.
in a very stigmatized industry.
Exactly.
And kudos to you and your team for doing that.
Thank you.
Uh,
People walk in, and actually, I've had men walk in, and they're like, "This looks like Tiffany's," and I'm like, "I know, and you can buy weed." Yeah.
Just speaking of the dispensary doing so well, I saw you recently featured on Fox News, which is crazy. What was it like being on Fox News talking about weed?
Yeah. Can I tell you something? It was all done over email, and I literally just walked on the set, and I had to sit there, and I spoke to her for 2 minutes, and then we just started. And so, however you had seen it on the like it was live. It was live too, and I wasn't seeing what everybody else was seeing because there's reels that are going on the side. There's a whole bunch of stuff that was happening. And it was me and her talking, and we were talking about, it was Ganjier that had set it up, and they have relationships, and they wanted, we actually were supposed to start with them a year ago before we opened. Of course, you know how things happen. And it happened that the producers from Fox News found an article that was written throughout the year. And they actually told my story in the Mosaic article. It was about what I shared with you today of how we were a Sri Lankan immigrant, left because of war, and started all over, and then found the plant and now opened a dispensary. And so that really resonated with the Fox News, and they wanted to talk about cannabis on there. And I wanted to frame it to make sure that people knew about, of course, Ganjier and the framework it gave. A lot of the framework from Ganjier is what we do and how we sell in the store.
For sure.
And I really wanted to showcase the amazing work that we did. And it was interesting because people would watch that. They're like, "How long have you been open?" I'm like, 1 year. They're like, "You look like you've been open for 5." And I was like, "It feels like 5."
It really does. It really does.
Yeah. So that's how it came, and she was just, it was easy to talk with her. It was just like, we're about the same age, so it's just like two women talking about weed, and I love talking about weed, and it's very easy to talk about.
For sure.
And it happened really quick, and I wanted to make sure that I got everything. Well, I get to practice it because after a year in talking, there's certain stories that you got to make concise, and how do you present those and be concise about it. And I was there, and I guess that was showtime.
No, it was, and you killed it. Okay, you did a wonderful job.
Thank you.
You represented yourself so well, and I mean, it didn't feel rushed or anything. I mean, you did a really good job of, in a concise pocket, explaining who you are, what you do, why you do, and I thought it was wonderful.
Thank you.
And I think you just do an overall great job of being a leader in this industry, especially for women.
Thank you.
Especially for women, Darsh. Like, just the way you carry yourself, the things you care about, the level of work you put into your craft.
Thank you.
I think people really need to pay attention to that. Like, the glitz and glam is cool, the reels, all that stuff is cool, but the amount of work that people like yourself have to put in to be successful, you got to really be built for this.
Yeah. It's you have to be, sometimes I feel like I have an engine of people, and I think the part of it, and you know this when you run your businesses, it's like, you have the vision, and you got to take that idea, like we were talking about, that idea, and put it into physical form, into people, and then the value that's created is monetization. And it is. I'm like you said, like, I'm constantly thinking about my business and what do we want to grow, and how do we expand,
For
right?
sure.
And I'm actually taking time recently. I've been quiet on social media for the last couple of weeks. I was just taking time of reflection, of looking at, okay, well, what do I need to grow so that I can grow to then grow my team? So that's a big focus for me right now of growth.
Oh, absolutely. I love that as a leader, right? Because to your point, we have all these ideas, but at some point you got to look yourself in the mirror and go, okay, I got to get better as me in order for us to get better as us. And, it's a new year, perfect time to do it.
Yeah.
You're glowing.
Thank you.
All right. And I'm super excited for us to just kick some ass this year. I'm super excited to watch you do everything you're going to do. You mentioned expansion. Are there long-term plans for Joy Leaf? Are you looking at doing some other things? If you can talk about it, this is
Yeah.
a smoking business
Yeah,
podcast,
totally, totally. Well, you're always looking for opportunities to grow, and so I'm excited. I know, Jason and I are. We are looking for opportunities to have another Joy Leaf. I'll say that because it's funny. People tell me, when is your next store opening? And I was like, everybody else is telling me I have another store. I don't even know that. I would like to open another store. I feel that my vision is I feel like we've created an experiential store at Joy Leaf, and the operating processes that we've put in place that we constantly are learning on, they're efficient. I would love to create a store that's operationally efficient and just an engine. And we have some cool ideas. I'm not going to share those of elevating that experience, but you're going to get a Joy Leaf experience for sure.
Listen, I can bet on it. Okay, I can bet on it. So before I get you out of here, I just got to ask one last question. So many women watching this show, many even men watching as well. What's the biggest piece of advice you would give someone watching this right now that's in corporate America, that's sick of it, ready for something new, something a little different, looking at cannabis, kind of wants to do it, not sure? What are you saying to that person watching this?
Yeah, I think there's opportunity, and there's an abundance of opportunity, and I think that skill sets, especially coming from corporate America, are valued in this organization. And I would say that I think if you want to be a long-term operator in this industry, you should be looking for that type of talent. A PSA to even independent operators, you should be looking for those types of talents to add to your team. I think for those folks to do it, it's an industry that your skill set definitely will add value, and it's now. If not now, when?
Right now.
Right now. And to start there's great organizations that have events to go meet people. That's how I started. I knew no one.
For sure.
I remember I would walk into events and I would have no idea what was going to be on the other side or who was going to be there.
Yep.
And now, to your point, you see 500, that 500 people, you still know 200 people. And I can walk into events and I'm like, oh, okay, you're being grabbed and saying hello to.
Absolutely.
Someone said something to me. They're like, there's 3 people that you can never get to. You guys, you guys, Precious, and then me. They're like, you 3, no one can get to you 3. I was like, oh, I'm in that category. I'm like, okay. Everybody else tells me where I am.
Seriously.
And I would say, if not, there's an abundance of opportunity. And I think when you can find the right people to work with and go meet them, you can get a good community.
No, that's spot on. Spot on. Well, listen, where can people find you at on social media?
Yes, we are at Instagram so my education platform, Instagram, it's Canadarsh.
Okay.
And I'm also on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, TikTok.
Okay.
At Canadarsh. And then you can also check out the Joy Leaf Dispensary.
Okay.
And that Instagram and that Facebook, and you can find us there.
All right, sweet.
Yes.
Well, listen, we really appreciate your time today.
Thank you so much.
You being so transparent, open, and honest with us.
No.
Really means a lot. So just thank you.
I appreciate that.
Thank
yes.
you.
Yes.
Well, guys, listen, it's been another episode of the Smoking Business Podcast with your boy, Brendan Robinson. Make sure you like this, subscribe to this, and stay tuned. Let's go.